Welcome to a good foundational week with macroeconomics. This week we're going to look at GDP and unemployment and inflation, probably the most key components I think, in macroeconomics because it's a foundation of most of the things that you're going to see in your everyday life. When you finish school and start looking for a full-time job, your experience will, to a large extent, be shaped by prevailing economic conditions. In some years, firms throughout the economy are expanding their production of goods and services. Employment is rising, and jobs are easy to find. In other years, firms are cutting back production. Employment's declining, and finding a good job takes a long time. Not surprisingly, any college graduate would rather enter the labor force in years of economic expansion rather than years of economic contraction. Because the health of the overall economy profoundly affects all of us, changes in economic conditions are widely reported by the media. Indeed, it is hard to pick up a newspaper, check an online news service, or turn on the TV without seeing some news-reported statistic about the economy. The statistic might measure the total income of everyone in the economy, or the rate at which the average prices are rising or falling, the percentage of the labor force is out of work, total spending of stores, the imbalance of trade between the U.S. and the rest of the world. All of these statistics are macro-based. Rather than telling me about a particular household, firm, market, they're telling us about the entire economy. As you may recall from previous chapters, economics was divided into two fields, micro and macro. Micro dealt with individuals and firms, where macro is looking at the study of the economy as a whole. The goal of macroeconomics is to explain the economic changes that affect many households, firms, and markets simultaneously. Macroeconomists address these questions. Why is the average income high in some countries? Why is it low in others? Why do prices sometimes rise rapidly while other times they're more stable? Why do production and employment expand in some years and not in other years? Because the economy as a whole is a collection of many households and many firms interact in markets, micro and macro are closely linked. The basic tools of supply and demand, for instance, are as central to macroeconomics as they are to microeconomics. Yet studying the economy in its entirety raises some new and intriguing challenges. So for this week, you're going to be looking at the role of GDP, which is an important chapter. Now let's focus on unemployment and inflation. If you look at it, in 2012, I remember, the median salary earned by a player in the New York Yankees was $1.9 million. In shortstops, Alex Rodriguez was paid $30 million. At first, this fact might lead you to think that baseball has become vastly more lucrative over the past 8 decades. But everyone knows the price of services have risen a lot. In 1931, Babe Ruth was paid $80,000 to play for the Yankees. But if you look on absolute terms, $80,000 compared to $300 or $30 million, there's a big difference. But is it that much? Because prices were so much lower in Babe Ruth's day than they are today, it's not clear whether Ruth enjoyed a higher or lower standard of living than today's players. What you're going to look at is, we're going to look at how economists use GDP to measure the quantity of goods and services the economy is producing. This chapter examines how economists measure the overall cost of living. So to compare Ruth's salary of $80,000 from today, we need to find some way of turning dollar figures into meaningful measures of purchasing power. This is what we look at in terms of the CPI. After seeing how this CPI is constructed, we're going to discuss how we can use that price index to figure out the difference in wages. So it'll be an interesting little example when you look at CPI, how it influences your daily life. I look forward to your participation in the module this week. And if you have any questions, let me know.